Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Svetlanov's Rachmaninoff Symphony Cycle and other orchestral works on 4 discs on the Japanese Exton label. There's a story behind this, which is why I'm bringing it up again. I mentioned these in the context of the complete Rachmaninoff Symphony Cycle video, but I never really gave these separate treatment, and they deserve it because it's very interesting what happened with Svetlanov's career generally, on disc anyway. Because, he started out as kind of a brutish Russian hack conductor, let's not kid ourselves, doing like all the basic repertoire. He was in with the Communist Party, they liked him. He had the opportunity to make tons of records. He made tons of records for Melodia, consequently. They were rather crudely recorded and just as crudely played. Sometimes he could just be raw and exciting, and he wasn't a terrible conductor. I mean, he wasn't in the sense of being incompetent. No, he wasn't. And he stuck to his Russian guns there and made lots and lots and lots of mediocre sounding records of Russian repertoire, some of which we still listen to, some of which aren't bad. He did all the basic stuff. Then digital recording happened, and it happened even in Russia. And like most digital recording labels, including the major labels here in the West, the initial digital recordings were screechy and terrible, or muffled and terrible, or just terrible, because they didn't know what they were doing and hadn't learned how to use the technology. And then they got better. And then, the Japanese, when they took over Sony, started running around the world making recordings with major orchestras and major artists that included in Russia and Czechoslovakia and Eastern Europe, where we assume it was less expensive. And they snagged Svetlanov in the twilight of his career, and they did a couple Tchaikovsky cycles, and they did digital recordings of Glazunov orchestral music, and all kinds of other things. Some of it was Japanese, some of it was just Melodia, and they were really pretty stunning. I mean, really stunning recordings, because we finally got a chance to hear what these orchestras sounded like. And I have to say, a lot of the shrillness and crudeness and miserableness of their sound was the result of Melodia's engineers. I mean, there's no question about that, because I heard Svetlanov and his orchestras. It was the USSR Symphony Orchestra in various different formations and names, but it was all basically the same bunch of people, it seems. But they were, when they were on tour, and the sound that they made was stunning. Absolutely stunning. I mean, it was raw when it needed to be raw. Those trumpets could peel the paint off the back of the music hall, but they were balanced. He did a Shostakovich Fifth that was absolutely dazzling, and some other things that I saw him do. So yeah, he could conduct. He could conduct well. He could produce wonderful results in Russian music, but we really hadn't had the opportunity to hear so much of that until these people came along and started doing these things. And so he did the Rachmaninoff symphonies, all 3 of them, and also, what else do we have? We have the Caprice Bohemienne, the Scherzo in D minor, the Rock, the Isle of the Dead, the Symphonic Dances, Prince Rostislav, and the Vocalese. In other words, all of his orchestral music that's not a piano concerto, basically. It's all here. And you don't get like the dances from Oleko or something. It's basically all here, right? And it's really, really remarkable. The sound, first of all, is just knockout stunning. This was recorded in the 5th studio of Moscow Radio. All of this supposedly from October 2nd to 7th in 5 days in 1995. Or 6 days, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 days. It's just amazing to do all of this music. Of course, they knew it. They knew it well. And it does have a spontaneity and a freshness that's marvelous. But also the tempos are rather on the slow side. It's not, it's measured and big in the Russian style. That sort of huge amplitude and darkness and heaviness and implacable power. And, it's really quite something. And when these things first came out, here's the thing. These things were first released on a label called Canyon Classics. I don't know what the relationship is between Canyon and Exton, and one was like a distributor, but they had their label, and one is the label, and one, I don't know. I don't know how that works in Japan. Pony Canyon was Canyon, and it was, but they were in a box, and they were distributed by Qualiton here in the United States. I remember this very vividly because they were mispriced horrendously mispriced because Japanese recordings were very expensive. They still are. They charge a premium, and they do premium work. I mean, you get the care and the love and the quality is there. So I never objected to it, but $30 a disc or something. It was like 4 discs. It cost like $100. It would have been crazy, but they were just crazily mispriced by the distributor, not by Qualiton, but on their end. And they passed it on with their usual markup. So they cost something like $20 for 4 discs. It was some terrible mess. So I got like 10 of them. I gave them away as presents to various people. It was like such an incredible deal to get them while you could. Then they all disappeared. They disappeared utterly. They vanished. Kaplooey. I mean, the distribution got messed up. Something happened, right? And so now they seem to be back on Exton, and no longer Canyon, and they are great. I mean, if you like Rachmaninoff, if you like the symphonies and orchestral music, and you want to hear authentic Russian interpretations by authentic Russian people being authentically Russian, and really just letting it rip in these pieces, then wow, this is really a special set, and I love it. I love it to death. It's exciting, and it's dazzlingly well recorded, and the performances are just pulverizingly brilliant. They are. It's just great. Absolutely great. People don't talk about it much because availability has been so spotty. It's so hard to find. I don't know where you're going to get this now, frankly. Probably, I mean, Amazon had it at one point, actually. But, you could order from Japanese mail order sources because now people sort of know what they are. And you might be able to get them as downloads. I don't know. All I know is that with all the vagaries of the distribution system, these things are still around and they pop up now and again. And if you see them, and if you care about Rachmaninoff and really want to hear some fabulous stuff, give them a shot. You won't be sorry. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.